Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time you guys are listening to us. Welcome back to another edition of the Layman's AI podcast. I am Adam,
And my name is Brian.
and we want to welcome you guys back to episode 34 of the Layman's AI podcast. So thank you for listening already. And we're kind of excited because we had our content planned out for the next several episodes. And so what do Brian and I do? We pivot.
You gotta
Um,
stay flexible.
Yeah, well, flexible, yes. But every time I think we pivoted, I think of the episode of Friends. I'm not sure if you were familiar with that show, Brian.
Yeah, pivot, pivot, pivot,
Pivot,
pivot,
pivot,
pivot.
pivot, where they're trying to get the couch down the stairs in the New York City
Yeah.
apartment stairwell. That's just awesome. But
Yep.
that's what we did this week. We did a major pivot because there is a trend going on right now. We feel compelled to give you guys some information on. And as we said, we predicted that in 2026, we predicted that this year the AI agent is going to be like the theme of the year. But it appears that the most commonly researched search on Google Trends when it comes to AI is actually building a personal assistant with AI.
Yes,
So,
yeah, I think that's a kind of an open-ended one too. Like, what is a personal assistant? How do I have a personal assistant? Is it a
mhm.
little friend that's inside my pocket? Not necessarily. You don't have a little buddy inside your pocket that's constantly helping you out and everything. It's actually kind of open-ended as to how you can actually clarify or define
Right.
your AI assistant and everything. There's a lot of different companies out there experimenting with different things. Everyone's going to have an opinion on it, but everyone's got an opinion. Uh,
hmm
so we're just kind of go over a few of these things. Um, define it. What is a personal assistant to you, Adam?
So, what's funny to me is it depends on the task that you're asking your personal assistant to do.
Hmm.
And for me, for the most part, a personal assistant has been for me mostly ChatGPT for the most part, has
Hmm.
truly been a personal assistant for me. I have asked it to review my emails for clarity like I would a secretary and say, please be precise and concise. Take my language, make it precise and concise, and clearly communicate what I'm asking it to do to shorten my emails, whether it's at work, whether it's for personal or even side hustles that you and I have. We've asked it to do those things, and it's done a good job at that. That's probably the most basic form of assistant that I can think of. But
Hmm.
for me, it's mostly the chatbot. Now, my question is, I believe you have some experience using it of to help you code. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of coding, mostly for class and some kind
Hmm
of side projects and everything. And I guess you could really define an LLM as a personal assistant, really, if you think
Yes.
about it, because you're always trying to ask it questions and everything like that. And that is sort of the base of what an AI assistant is. If you're using ChatGPT, Google
hmm
Gemini, Claude, Grok, Office or Copilot, I should say. You
Yeah.
have your assistant right there, and you're basically using it to help you along and everything. I use it at work too. I'll be at my computer. We have Copilot built in with our computers and everything, so
hmm
I'm always bringing up Copilot, asking it basic questions. A lot of times I ask it questions on how to use Microsoft apps and everything. Like, okay, I'm using Excel, how do I do this? And it kind of gives me a
Yes.
nice little step by step. So it does do that a lot, instead of going online and going through the help and digging through Reddit threads and everything
hmm
like that. You could just ask your assistant right there, and it does a very nice job. So that is the simplest form. But
Right.
you can also do a lot more. I know Perplexity is a pretty popular one. I know you've used it quite a bit. I really don't have much experience with it. But that could
Still.
be a very good assistant, I would say.
Still my number one daily tool in terms of basic information. Instead of doing a Google search, I literally open up Perplexity, gives me a very quick summary, as well as the sources where it got the information from, which is very important
Hmm.
to me. So
Yeah.
I still use that somewhat as an assistant to help me out when I need general information.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the sources are like kind of the big thing like that. I think we've very much stressed this over and over again.
hmm
You need to identify sources, and if you're going to use an LLM, you got to have that LLM give you some source links and everything.
Right, because you want to know
And
where you're getting your information from.
yeah, exactly. And I don't necessarily like that Some of them use social media posts and everything and trends and what have
Hmm.
you. Some use it more than others. I think Google Gemini does use a lot of kind of social media because it's basically a Google search. I think Grok has kind of been known to use it a lot more than the other ones.
Hmm.
I can't really say for sure how many other ones use it, but that's kind of something you need to be mindful of. And there's also some advanced features that you can use as a assistant, basically.
Yes.
And one that I'm use a lot of, and I've been kind of used it for a few episodes here is Claude Projects. If you go back to our Thanksgiving episode, that was my assistant basically planning my Thanksgiving dinner.
Uh-huh.
If you want to really see how where it can shine, go back and watch that episode or listen to that
Yes.
episode or actually
Yes.
watch the YouTube video too, because we really do a nice
Yeah.
demonstration of
Oh,
it and everything.
I would love to piggyback on that because when you
Hmm.
mentioned Copilot earlier, I thought Copilot was phenomenal in the Christmas episode. So we got
Mm,
Thanksgiving and the Christmas
yes.
episode when we asked Copilot to basically work as an assistant and plan out some activities and put it on our calendars. And you were able to
Yes.
show how easy that was to do that. That's an
Hmm.
example of a personal assistant, and Copilot hit a home run on that one, as well as Claude Projects.
Yeah, definitely. What I liked about Copilot, and th this is another thing you can use an AI assistant as well, is to kind of put things on your calendar. The thing I liked about Copilot is it gave me a file to load to my own calendar rather than directly linking it and everything.
Hmm.
I know some of these other ones are linked with Google Calendars. I think Claude is. I think ChatGPT might be as well. I can't tell for sure. I'd have to do a little more. Probably should have done a little more research, but. That's another thing where you can have your AI assistant. If you have it linked to your Google Calendar, which is what a lot of people have
Hmm.
nowadays, you could just say, "Hey, put this on my calendar. I got this, that, and the other going on," and you could bust out Gemini and just have Gemini add things to your Google Calendar and whatnot. And this is really where you start to see the assistant part of everything. And this is
Hmm.
where I feel where AI shines essentially is
Right.
like not doing it for you, but assisting you into what you need to do. Because who wants to open up their calendar and like go to the day, click on this, do all this, that, and the other, and everything, and you could just basically tell your AI assistant tool, uh, on this day I have this happening, et cetera, et cetera. Or if you have a work meeting, you're
Right.
setting up a work meeting and invite these people, make sure it's set to auto record the meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So, these can do a lot of help in that regard too, but like setting up your calendar, I think is one of the big ones
I
for
agree.
sure.
It certainly helps you. It certainly helps you as a personal assistant. Brian and I have actually just talked about some examples of using AI, very basic examples of using AI as your personal assistant. But we would be remiss not to mention what's kind of been the hot, not topic right now, but the hot new feature in AI actually is like a personal assistant.
Hmm.
And I believe it dropped just 2 days ago, and we've already seen videos on it. We've already discussed it. Brian and I met before our podcast tonight to talk about this, and it's from our friends at Claude. And
Hmm.
they have this new feature that's only available to the Max subscribers, the Max plan, which is $100 a month. So that's expensive. I mean, we're not even going to sugarcoat
Yeah.
that. That most of our laymen are probably not paying $100 a month for a Claude subscription.
Hmm.
But what they have out right now is called Claude Cowork. It's members of the $100 plan. It has to be associated with the Mac OS system, the most recent one.
Hmm.
And it's currently in what's called research preview mode. And I've seen two videos on this thing and its capabilities. And my goodness, it's essentially an agent. It's agent-like, and it's built into your Mac, and you can give it control of your Mac to do tasks for you. That is
Hmm.
not just a personal assistant. That's almost like a personal worker for you, depending on how you intend to utilize what it can do. Very interesting tool. I would love to keep an eye on this. I think it's very fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I just kind of asked Claude, please explain Claude Cowork. I asked Claude itself. And here's kind of the interesting thing. It says, first answer says I'm not immediately familiar. Let me look again. And I'm like, I am
Uh,
asking you.
about
Um,
you.
yeah, so like yeah, do not fear the AI takeover just yet. But no, it is kind of nice. What you basically do is you can give it access to a folder of your choosing. So basically, if it's on your computer, you can say, "Hey Claude, here's your folder. Look at these files right here." That does kind of bring up some privacy issues. You
Hmm.
have to be very careful with that.
Right.
If you give it a wormhole into one of your folders, there is I do believe there is a risk of it like kind of seeping maybe into your other folders.
Mm.
I mean, I know they probably have some cybersecurity guardrails up, but that is always a risk when you provide a wormhole into your PC.
That's very accurate. And keep in mind, when you start talking about agent versus like a chatbot, agents can take control of your files.
Hmm.
So that means editing them, renaming them,
Hmm.
reorganizing them,
Hmm.
repurposing them. And certainly the data that's in there is now the agent's as well as yours.
Yeah, that's kind
Something
of
to consider.
yeah, it's kind of a scary thing. And if you're like copying and dragging and dropping files from your computer over, who's to say that it can't run a trace
Hmm.
on those files and everything and get access to more than you intended it to?
Hmm.
I know I'm not trying to be an alarmist or anything, but that is a risk.
Definitely.
That is
It
a
is a risk.
risk. If you're a ex-hacker that's gotten caught and is now reformed, please let us know if we're accurate or not. I
Yeah, oh,
would love
yes,
to
we'd
hear
love to
those.
hear from you.
Would love to hear that, but that is a risk always if you provided a wormhole, essentially. But
Hmm.
to get past the negatives, the positives of everything is that you can really, uh, excuse me, you can really allow this to kind of take over a lot of your files and sort of run a lot of work and everything.
Hmm.
And you can pull up Claude at any time, be like, "Hey, Claude, take a look at this or what have you," and it can dig into the files and it can give you a nice little analysis and everything. A few files, that's not going to do a whole lot, but let's say you're working a major project for a big client and everything, and you need to like keep looking at or go back and find some stuff. And, instead of like digging through the files, okay, where is this? Where is this? Claude Cowork can just find it for you.
Right.
So that's a lot
I-
of positives and
In a
everything.
matter of minutes as opposed to you clicking, looking. I mean, the time you're
Hmm.
going to save if you program this thing correctly, and it's not even really programming, it's more like prompting and
Hmm.
giving it the context. But if you do it correctly, it's going to save you a ton of time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Not cheap, like you said. It's hundred
No, not
dollars a
cheap.
month for a max subscription. I have a pro plan on Claude, which is $20 a month.
Hmm.
That's reasonable because it actually gives me enough computing access and
Hmm.
I can do a lot more projects and everything, which I have done and I'm working on things. But yeah, I think this is a good one too. But speaking of agents, that's another type of kind of high-end AI assistant,
Yes.
personal assistant right there. They're starting to become a little more user-friendly, non-tech friendly. You still need some technical know-how on how to build an agent and everything like that.
Yes.
But that's really a personalized one. A lot of the ones we've been talking about, they're very open-ended in general. But if you really need a personalized AI assistant, agentic AI is the way to go.
Correct. If you're asking to do task, that's definitely the way you want to go. And I am happy to say, Brian, I haven't even shared this with you yet, so I'm sharing this like live right now. I have built myself a course for myself, obviously, to learn AI agents as quickly as possible so that we can finally get to do that agent episode
Mm.
that we've been telling our listeners is coming, is coming. And I'm already excited with where I'm headed because I've learned so much about it. The real difference is like, do you want a chatbot, which is just your basic conversations? It's more like your Google on steroids, your Google search on steroids, or do you want something that'll do tasks for you? And
Hmm.
that's where the agents come in. So, this episode that we're going to be doing as we move forward in this, a lot of it's going to be considerations when you're building an AI assistant or what do you need? Because I do think most of our laymen are going to be satisfied with just a simple chatbot or an
Hmm.
LLM. as their personal assistant for small tasks. But as we start to get larger, if you wanted to do work for you, like what we talked about with Claude Cowork, if you want to do it for you, there are additional considerations you need to consider, such as data privacy and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and once you start to get into the agentic AI, now you're really uh starting to get very specific on what you need, and that's kind of
Hmm.
funny. You're using AI to teach you how to use AI, and everything,
Oh,
and you're like,
there's a whole episode there of what I've
yeah,
done to program these things. I love it.
you're running your own course, which is kind of funny because I decided to dabble in video game design just to
Hmm.
kind of have some like kind of a little fun thing on the side, and I'm actually using a Claude project to teach me how to step by step how to program
Hmm.
video games using like different engines and what have you.
Oh, that's funny. So I'll share right now. I got it right here. I made myself a workbook.
Hmm.
I I'm not even making this up. I have a page and a half on a Google Doc and a Word document of my personal learning style that I know works for me.
Hmm.
So whenever I want to create my own course, I go to ChatGPT, I put it on the thinking mode. I give it the same command. I said, this is my preference as a learning style. And I'm in 15 days, I'm going to master this stuff. I've already got my notes written down. Like I am
No,
ready
there
to
you go.
go. I am ready to go. I'm excited about this. And I said, give me 15 days, knowing it's going to take longer than 15 days.
Definitely.
But I said 1 hour a day. I know my weekends are shot. I have kids that play sports, just like
Hmm.
you do. So I don't have weekends. But I do have time at night, and if I need to break it up here or there, I break it up here or there. But it's going very well so far. I'm learning it very well. I digress a little bit, but at the same time, that is kind of an assistant when I'm like, teach me this. I'm
Hmm.
using it as an assistant in this case to teach me something that I don't know a whole lot about. But by the time I'm done, I feel like I'm going to be better than the average person at designing agents or knowing a proper use for an agent versus a proper use for a chatbot.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of gonna be the sort of big question. Like, what do you need AI to do for you? I think that's or what
Hmm.
do you want to use AI for? I shouldn't phrase it, what do I need AI to do for me? That is I should just kind of get ahead of that. That's a mentality I never want anyone to creep into it. It's like what do you how do you want to use AI? Or what do you want
Yeah.
to use it for is the question. You
So,
should say. So you may not need a full agent for what you're trying to do. You may not
right.
need it. You may not need Claude Cowork or Claude Projects or ChatGPT has the whole thing where you create your own GPT. You may not need that. You may just
Hmm.
need an LLM. You just may need a basic
Correct.
LLM.
Correct.
So, like, what are you trying to do and everything?
Yeah.
And that's
Are
kind
you?
of where I kind of been learning myself, essentially.
Yeah, the way I like to think of this is in three levels. In prepping for this episode and doing the research, there's basically three levels, and I'm going to talk about each one of them at this moment. It's like what Brian and I have said. First, level one, which is your basic level, are you looking for something that's like a chat helper? And by a chat helper, I mean, are you looking for answers, drafts, something to summarize? If you're given a PDF that's 20 pages long, do you need to get to the point very quickly? Are you using it for that as a personal assistant? Because if so, an LLM such as ChatGPT, Claude, even Perplexity is going to help you out with that.
Hmm.
And then there's the second level, which I consider to be like your connected helper. The one I instantly go to is Copilot on this because Copilot can
Yeah.
have access to like a calendar and some of your files and your emails.
Hmm.
Another one that we haven't really touched base on that much is Notion AI could be a very good connected helper. I know a lot of people use it. I haven't used it too much personally, but I know several people use Notion a lot for organization and sharing documents. It's a little like a Google Drive, if you will, but there seems to be components built in where Notion will actually do things for you as a result of it. And then the third level is obviously what you and I have been talking about with agents, where it actually takes action on your behalf. Some of the examples would be N8N, that is a very popular agent software, or
Hmm.
excuse me, agent tool, as well as Zapier is another one, and there's several of them. Make, I think, is another one. I don't have much experience with these, but I'm hoping to learn them over the course of the next 15 days as I do my self-built course. So,
Definitely. Yeah, I have not heard of that one to be honest with you.
which one?
There,
Make or
no, what was the one you were talking about? I don't know.
N8N?
N8N, yeah, and there was another one.
There was
Oh,
also
crud.
Zapier. Zapier, I think, is
Zapier, I
one of
haven't
the
heard of that one.
original. I think that's one of the OGs of agents, but I could be mistaken. And if I am, I apologize to our listeners. But
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think that kind of goes into, the scope of what we want to do and everything. 'Cause, if you're just want to chat, you don't need an agent for that. So
hmm
I kind of sort of repeating myself a little bit, but then kind of data classification, I think is something that you need to,
that's a consideration. Yeah,
yeah, definitely need to consider. What kind of data is this that you're using? Is this personal data? Is this public data? Is this data that you want to get out there? Because if you upload, something that you don't want people to use, and somehow, this AI model starts getting your data, and now it can suddenly train off your data, potentially.
yeah,
That's just something you have to kind of keep in mind right there. And, privacy is another big thing, essentially, that you have to keep in mind too. Because like I said, if you give it access to your computer or any kind of assistant access to your computer, you're basically digging a wormhole for them,
yeah.
which you have to really, really keep in mind of that.
Absolutely, you do. And I want to tell our listeners, because this is going to come up a couple times, as we're considering the data that it's going to have access to. If you want to use it for a personal assistant at work, make sure you know your company's AI policies
Hmm.
in terms of what you can and cannot use AI for. And this might be one, I know sometimes we say, well, it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. This might be one of those times where it's the opposite, where if there's not anything defined,
Hmm.
you're going to want to ask before you do something. This is one of those times where you really have to define your no-go zones, as I like to call them. Like, you're not going to look
Yeah.
at my banking statements. You're not going to look at my personal health. That's my personal choice.
Hmm.
But when it comes to work, if you work in the medical field, education field, probably some things in automation that you can think of, there are some
Hmm.
things that are private and you do not want them to get out.
Yeah. I mean, the whole easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. That entails like borrowing some tools from somebody at work or for a quick job
hmm
or anything like that, or using the conference room just if you don't know somebody's in there. But when you're putting data out there, no, you do not want to ask for forgiveness because your forgiveness is going to be a pink slip,
Right.
essentially, could potentially. So that's just something you got to keep in mind. Which kind of makes me wonder, things like Claude Cowork. Um, would it be, more mindful to have it in the cloud, essentially? Or would it be more
Hmm.
mindful to have like some sort of personalized, or localized, I should say, LLM. That would be a very, very big task. I mean, you can't have an LLM at your house basically because that's just a little too much for you. But it's going to start to create some uh,
hmm
force people to establish some boundaries, I'd say.
Yeah, and AI boundaries is a thing. The same with as with social media and other tasks. We set our boundaries, and we've got to do that. We've got to do that with our assistants, and we got to do that with AI. We got to know what's personally our boundaries. And for some people, it's more than others. I'm not a big fan of giving AI access to my health at this moment, but some
Hmm.
people may be fine with that because it could end up being healthier for them. So that's a decision you have to make when it comes to your personal stuff. But again, to piggyback on our main point, when it comes to your work and your job, your employer has a say in what you can and can't do with your data. So
Yeah,
just please keep
definitely.
that in mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excuse me, having a little bit of a cough still.
that's all right.
But yeah, that's like gonna kind of like get big on your security and everything. Cybersecurity is only gonna get bigger, in my opinion, when you start using more AI assistants and what have you.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but that's kind of something you're gonna have to, take a look at is, security. Now you're, bringing up all these wormholes and everything, and hackers have a new frontier, essentially, as
hmm
to how to get into there and how to use AI to trick AI into getting into there. Can they, pose as you using AI and make the LLM think that they're you and then get into your computer?
That's an interesting take because I did read that one of the things that hackers have started to do is they are trying to identify agents that are kind of rogue doing work for you on the internet, and they're
Hmm.
coming in as if they're the answer that you're looking for, and they give you the access to those files that may have your personal information on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a really updated style of hacking where the
Uh,
AI agent, in sense, gives your information out to the hackers. They're not even doing anything other than looking as if it's the answer that the agents could be looking for. It's very fascinating.
yeah,
Um,
it's a whole new frontier because you got to
yeah,
remember, as intelligent as these LLMs and AI tools are getting, they're still machines. You can find a way to fool those machines and everything. One example I kind of go to the war in Ukraine. It's big on drones over there. Like it's sort of like the
right, right.
testing battlegrounds for drone warfare and what have you. And not only that, these drones are using AI images to identify targets. And what they found out is that if they start transporting people and supplies along the front lines using horses and donkeys, the image generator doesn't identify that as a threat, which is
Hmm.
kind of an interesting. So they found a way to fool it already. We're just going to have to, you know,
Four-legged robots that
yeah, yeah,
have
just
weapons
like
on them. Like,
yeah, I guess some like donkeys and everything. They'll just they won't view it as a threat. So, the point of that is you can always fool a machine. And that's kind of what people kind of forget with all these AI tools is they're only as intelligent as they're told to be. And they can learn, they can learn, but overall, they're programmed a certain way and the human brain can eventually fool it. And now with AI, it's kind of an interesting frontier into hacking right now.
hmm
So that's where you got to kind of keep your cybersecurity in line and everything.
it is. Yep.
Which will be interesting is how popular personal firewalls are going to become because of
Oh,
this.
I haven't even thought of that. I mean, I've been thinking of that in terms of what permissions do you give it, but never really thought of it in terms of the where the
Yeah,
firewalls come into play. That's it. That's going to be an interesting as we
yeah,
move forward with that.
yeah, definitely. So like you have your firewalls everywhere. They're in the cloud. Every company has them. Your computer has its own firewall with your own like kind of cybersecurity software. But beyond that, we might have to get more complex with these firewalls, just because people are, finding ways to use AI.
Hmm.
Um, and people are using AI irresponsibly, and that just kind of op could incidentally open up things
Right.
with these personal assistants if you get too lenient on them. I don't think we're getting too far away from the personal assistant thing. A little bit, but these are things like you have to keep in mind when
Yeah.
you start uploading files with a lot of these tools.
Absolutely. And if it's not something you wouldn't want a stranger to see, then do not give any AI tool access to it.
Hmm.
So that covers security risk. I think we're bordering the lines of permission and controls. Like, and along those lines, when you write actions or you're prompting for your AI assistants, um, it's okay to put in there that you can require approval before it makes a move. Like,
Hmm.
say, do not move to the next step until you've told me what you've done. And it's like some things to consider for like what I would call approval gates, if you will. If you're asking it to be an agent and make purchases for you, I do not want AI making purchases for me with my credit
Hmm.
card. If I don't give it access and tell it what to do, I would probably never do that. But
Oh yeah.
again, booking appointments, that's something I would consider.
Uh,
Definitely, you need to approve. If AI wants to delete a file, you're darn right you're going to go through me before you actually delete that file.
hmm.
And I don't like the idea of messaging others. I know a lot of people, when I was looking at the top uses for personal assistants, a lot of people basically wanted to just do your emails for you. And while I know
Hmm.
that's a pain in the rear, I just don't like that at all without approval.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that. I would want some sort of how should I say it? Sort of quarantine um
Hmm.
space before that actually sends anything out or executes anything. Like you said with emails or messaging or anything. I would want to say, okay, write me this email, write me this message, et cetera, but
Yep.
don't send it, put it in the quarantine and let me review it. I
Yeah.
think that's where, the human touch kind of comes into play here.
When it comes to email, I feel like agent may be going a little too far. Maybe that level two of like assistance with it, with a co-pilot assisting you.
Hmm.
So this way you can say, "Hey, co-pilot, I vaguely remember this long conversation or this long email thread that was going back and forth at work. Can you summarize it for me?" Assuming that your work has co-pilot already, like mine does.
Yeah.
Then maybe it can give you an update and reminders as to what's going on. That's fine. But I feel like if you're actually asking it to do the email and then sending it without even you looking at it, I feel like you're begging for trouble, but also you're going to miss stuff.
Yeah, yeah, possibly. One positive that you may be able to use it agentically is if you have maybe some marketing material that you want to
Hmm.
get out to
Yeah,
customers and everything. Like you're a company, you just released a new product, and excuse me, after you release this new product, you just tell your agent and be like, "Hey, send out this email, let all our customers know." I
right.
don't see too much harm in that or anything like that.
Me
Um,
either. Yeah.
but if it's a very in-depth conversation with a customer or a client that you're trying to work on a complex project with, or if it's a personal email or you're sending an email to your doctor or your financial advisor, et cetera, yeah, that's where you definitely want to kind of limit it right there.
Yes, I would definitely say so. Uh, I would
Mhm.
definitely say so on that. Looking some of the last considerations that uh, we've noted that you'll want to consider before building an assistant when building an assistant is your autonomy settings.
Mhm.
Decide when it must ask you first before it does something. Ask yourself what can it do silently without you knowing. That's a little more the agentic AI. But
Yeah.
also, how's it going to report back to you, which I kind of like. Like if AI made a move, if I've got an agent that's actually doing things like sending out customer updates, or if it's generating leads for me. If I'm a salesperson in realty or something like that, if it's doing that, I do want some sort of a summary of what it did for the day, so at least I know
Uh-huh.
it worked and what it did. And things like that. I also want update if I definitely want an update if it's spending money, which I still think is a whole nother. I wouldn't. I wouldn't task an agent to spend my money. That's for sure, or my company's money.
Yeah, that would be yeah, you're walking a dangerous line right there.
Uh-huh.
If you do that, good luck, Charlie.
Yeah.
Basically that on that one. But yeah, I mean, autonomy it's yeah, like an autonomous AI agent as a personal assistant, that's a very sketchy thing to me.
Hmm.
Because that's where you can really start seeing rogue AI
Yeah.
kind of take off and start hallucinating, and you can create some very bad issues. It's not going to take over the world
Yeah.
by any means, but once it starts hallucinating, once it starts going rogue, it's just going to be like one problem after another. So,
Yeah.
using agents autonomously, I would personally advise against that right now because there aren't any safeguards really in place for that at the moment. Um, because that kind of gets into our next point, reliability and verification. You touched on this, having a human sign off for things.
Yeah.
It can do something. I don't want you to do this until I approve it, which is kind of I would say a standard almost for a
Yeah.
lot of tests and everything like that. And your reliability, AI tools aren't perfect. For their lawyers speak, right below the chat bot where you type everything in is always say AI can make mistakes. Please
Yeah.
double check.
That's like standard procedure now with all AI tools, or especially LLMs, that AI can make mistakes.
No,
So,
yeah, oh yeah, you
yeah.
definitely have to place that right below. That kind of goes back to it's kind of related to an old case. You ever see the documentary series Pepsi, Where's My Jet on Netflix? I don't know if you ever seen that
I
one.
did. Is that the one where I think I did? That's the one where the kid sued because he had 7 million points, and on the commercial they said it was 7 million points to get an F-13 fighter or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And he found
Yeah.
a loophole. You get 10 cents a point, and found out he can get a Harrier jet
Harrier jet. Okay.
for 700 grand. And I mean that's a deal right there. And
Yes. Yeah.
that is a deal. So
Uh,
so he found a guy with a lot of money and he said he'd go in on it with him. And it's a whole story, but basically to kind of get the point, they later released a revised revision of that commercial saying "just kidding" underneath.
that rings a bell.
After he started, yeah, after he started the whole process,
I
and
feel like that happened when we were in middle school and we knew about that.
yeah,
I
I don't remember it. I just saw the documentary, and I was actually surprised at how close he got to winning. He did like he got closer than you would have thought. But anyway, that's kind of where the lawyer speak comes in, where they kind of like
hmm
put that little fine print. Hey, I can make mistakes, and that goes back to, hey, just kidding. You're not going to get a Harrier jet for 700 grand.
Right.
But anyway, like that's kind of like where the reliability comes in, because like I said, machines. They're not perfect, and you can always fool a machine. So,
Yep.
putting together your own documents and everything, like we were saying with Claude Cowork, Claude Projects. I think Notebook LM, you can upload your own stuff and everything.
Oh, yes,
Um,
absolutely. But
yeah, and
yeah, Notebook LM is much more of a learning device as opposed to like a personal assistant. However,
okay.
learning can be very personal and be a very good personal assistant for things like that.
Well, it can be it can be an assistant, like a meetings note taker, basically. I
hmm
don't know if you've seen these new devices that they have out, where it can record your meetings. You set it to record, and after it records, it kind of summarizes everything, and you can actually put a summary of the
Yeah.
meetings together.
I laugh at those going, I don't know I don't know how those things are as widespread as they are without some legality challenges.
Yeah.
So I live in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, it is illegal to record. So we're one of the 5 states where it is illegal to record somebody without their permission.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
includes phone conversations, Zoom meetings, everything.
Wow.
And what's hilarious to me is how many times I've sat in meetings where the AI assistant sends me notes afterwards, and I'm going, that I didn't give you permission to be in these, unless I believe in Pennsylvania, unless it's you see an illegal act happening, then you are allowed to record without
Okay.
permission. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Very.
but our last point, when considerations boils down to memory and personalization, but mostly the memory of the AI tool, how much you get. I'll share with everybody. I use ChatGPT as a personal assistant when posting on LinkedIn and social media in terms of for the Layman's AI podcast and some of my other AI ventures. And I will share with you that I did not know that a single thread within ChatGPT only has so many characters and tokens you can use until it's done, and it makes you open up a brand new one. And I had trained this one to answer the way I wanted it to answer. Then I had to go back and try to redo that again in a different
Hmm.
thread. So that is something to consider when you're using chatbots. Is what kind of memory and how long will it go before you need to do something along those lines. I feel like with Gemini, it's a lot longer than it is with other ones, but I don't have enough personal experience. I've never really maxed out a Gemini thread before, but I have done it twice with ChatGPT.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever maxed out a thread with Gemini. I'm always good at starting new chats just because I
Yeah.
kind of like your earlier questions start to influence you later on. So that's kind of always kind of frustrated me. But yeah, personalization, helpful and creepy. Um,
hmm
you kind of put this point here in the outline we have. It can get creepy if you give it too much. That's kind of where I would say you'd have to sort of be careful right there as to how much you want to provide this AI personal assistant or whatever. But this can be very, very helpful
hmm
because it does remember a lot of things in which you chat it up and everything. But I will say the Copilot tool I use at work, it uses the same account, and I chat it up a lot of times and everything. And even in brand new chats, it remembers things that we discussed. Um,
Wow.
and other things. And I'm like, how did you know that? And I flat out asked him, like, how do you know this stuff? And then it kind of explained, like, through out all the chats and everything, I learned this about you. And at first, I'm kind of like, okay, that's cool, but do I really want this? Do I really want um this, specific LLM training on my account here.
Yeah.
It's for work, so I'm not too worried about it. I don't do too much personal discussing at work, but where is that line essentially?
Well,
If
and
it can,
the hard part is the line is determined by each personal user in this one,
yeah,
in this case.
yeah.
Some people are more open than others, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of like the interesting philosophical debate, I would say. At what point is there a universal line here?
Yeah.
Because people who grow up with this technology, they're going to be more accepting of it, blindly
Right.
too, especially like a lot of the younger generations. I mean, you and I were both there. We would accept things blindly when we were younger and
Oh,
everything,
absolutely.
and I don't want these things taking advantage of my kids, essentially.
Without
So that,
question. Right.
yeah, so that's where kind of the line comes in. At what point are you a creeper, essentially?
At
So,
what point is your personal assistant know too much about you?
yes, definitely. But yeah, that kind of gets all our points there. Adam, any final thoughts?
No big final thoughts, just that I'm glad we pivoted to discuss this with our listeners and actually, because we did see a lot of content out there that was like, this is how to build a personal assistant with Claude, or this is how to build a personal assistant with ChatGPT. And there's a lot of considerations that you need to know before you start building these or using these as personal assistants. So
Mhm.
uh, hopefully you can, listen to this one, gain some value in it, and think of some things that you may not have thought of prior to listening to this one.
Yeah, essentially that's kind of where I would go to. But as far as like your data is concerned, I would go back to an old woodworking analogy. Measure twice, cut once. And
There you
that
go.
kind of goes with your data. Um, Look at your data once, look at your data twice, and your cut is what you submit to the LLM or the AI assistant or whichever you're using, before you just kind of blindly start throwing files at it. Double check what you're doing because you want to make sure that you're good right there. But, not to scare anybody, there's a lot of helpful, but always be careful as everything. But either way, I think that about wraps it up.
Yep.
For this episode, I'd like to give everyone a big thank you for taking your time out of your day to listen to us. My name is Brian,
And I am Adam.
and you have been listening to the Layman's AI, and we will see you next time.